My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 49 MICHEAL versus Green fight card. I'm going to give you my DraftKings picks, my DraftKings plays. We're going to talk about who's worth the money, who's not worth the money, and where you might find some solid underdogs. If you want your stab at $50 free, go to WeWantPicks.com/DraftKings. We have a free DraftKings league. We do free contests every single week. All you need to do is enter those contests, and if you win the free contest, we will send you $50 as a congratulations. Check it out now, WeWantPicks.com/DraftKings, but make sure you click that join button under this video to become a member and qualify for that payout. Let's jump right in. I'm just going to go ahead and go in what I have listed as the fight order. So opening up, we have two contender series, guys. So there's not going to be any data here. We've got Carlos Hernandez taking on Victor Altamirano, and this is a pretty dead even fight. And again, there's no data here because even though they're coming off contender series, the contender series data doesn't go into DraftKings. But Victor Altamirano, he's sort of a traditional old school martial artist. He's fast, he's powerful on his feet, he's patient when he needs to be, and he's pretty calculated. His takedown defense is not great, but if he does get taken down, he gets up well and he can scramble pretty well on bottom. Carlos Hernandez is a grappler. He's got okay striking. He's got solid accuracy, and he does have some of his own power. He isn't the most technically sound guy, but he's got a nice jab, and he can make things happen. His takedowns can be a bit weak, though. He'll take shots, miss them, then end up working up to the upper body, and then having the pull guard and things like that. It's two young prospects. They're both coming off contender series. It's hard to know how good they actually are or are not. I like Victor Altamirano to win this fight. He was taken down 5 times in his contender series fight and still pulled out that win. So even if Carlos does have some success with the takedowns, I think Victor gets it done. I think Victor wins. Whether you want to spend the $8,000 is entirely up to you. Again, you're sort of taking a chance on a couple of unknowns, or at least unprovens at this point. We move over to Ramiz Brahimaj. He's taking on Michael GILLMORE. This is striker versus grappler. Ramiz Brahimaj, let's look at his slate here. The loss to Court McGee was an embarrassing one. He's a very good grappler, Ramiz, and he was completely out-grappled by Court McGee. Court McGee took him down over and over and just controlled him and dominated from there. Then we've got the fight against Politnikov, which he actually did what he was supposed to do. He got a takedown, got a submission, and that's his path to victory. And the fight against Max Griffin, he basically lost his ear. He decided to strike it out instead of grapple, and his ear was just completely, like literally dangling and about to fall off. I bring all of that up because this guy is a phenomenal grappler. He's not a great striker, but he has enough success to convince himself that he is, and he ends up striking with people instead of grappling, which is literally his path to victory in every fight that he's in. And he's fighting Michael GILLMORE, who is a striker, a pure striker. He's coming off this loss to Andre Petroski. Andre Petroski took him down a bunch of times, ended up stopping him. Michael GILLMORE did have success on his feet. The problem is he didn't really have an answer for any of the actual takedowns that Andre Petroski set up. My point here is if Ramiz Brahimaj does what he's supposed to do, which is grapple, and we cannot always count on him to do that, he should win this fight. He should dominate, potentially get himself a submission win. But if he decides to slug it out with a kickboxer like Michael GILLMORE, he will lose. So listen, I think Ramiz Brahimaj will actually win. He's taking this fight on short notice. He obviously wants to get that loss back, and hopefully he's going to come in here with the right game plan. I worry about his cardio, and I worry about his fight IQ when it comes to making the right decisions. I do think Ramiz Brahimaj will grapple. I think he will win. If you want to spend $9,300, I mean, that's the tricky question. If I was positive he was going to grapple, if he came out there and did an interview and said, I'm going to grapple, I don't know why I haven't been, I'm going to, I spend the $9,300 all day. So I just don't know if he will or not, and that's where it gets tricky. Then we got Jonathan Martinez taking on Alejandro Perez. Jonathan Martinez listed at $8,800. He's a very well-rounded guy. He's got nice technical striking, slick BJJ. He's got a Muay Thai style with really nice kicks and cage control. He's fighting Alejandro Perez, who's got solid boxing, solid grappling, really nice speed, and good power in his hands. It's an interesting matchup. It's a fun matchup. We've got two grapplers because Alejandro Perez has a wrestling background. They're both grapplers like in skill set, but they want to be strikers, so they will come out here and they will likely strike it out and keep it on their feet. I think Alejandro Perez is the better wrestler, but he doesn't necessarily use it. I think Jonathan Martinez is the better grappler and the more technical striker. So if this comes down to striking, I think Jonathan Martinez will be the more technical striker, but he does have to worry about the power. If it comes down to grappling, Jonathan Martinez is the better jiu-jitsu guy, but he could be taken down and held down. And all of this is because I think Jonathan Martinez wins this fight, and he may be worth the $8,800. The problem is when he wins decisions, 59 points, 67 points. That's not exactly a ton of money, and that's because he's not getting these takedowns. He's not getting the control time, but he may. He may. Like this, it's an interesting fight because they may end up just standing there and slugging it out, or because Alejandro Perez might take a takedown or a shot or two, Jonathan Martinez may respond accordingly, and they could end up on the ground. If they end up on the ground, I think Jonathan Martinez submits them. If they stay standing, I think Jonathan Martinez does pick apart Alejandro Perez. And again, that'll look like a 67 or a 59. 115 here. There was a KO or TKO. It's certainly possible, but I don't think that will happen. If we take a look at Perez, I mean, he's only got 2 takedowns here in the UFC in his last couple fights. He has 5 takedowns overall in 12 fights. But again, his last couple, he's only got 2. And I bring that up because I do think he can get the takedown, stay out on top, and ride this fight out. But I don't know if he's going to do that. And he's another guy, if he just stays standing and this ends up being a decision win for him, we're talking 50 points. I think Jonathan Martinez wins. I don't know if he's worth the $8,800. And I do think Alejandro Perez is more live for a finish than Jonathan Martinez is, just because of that power in his hands. And if he threatens some takedowns, all of a sudden his hands had even more power because he can come over the top, and Jonathan Perez will be worried about that. So pick a side if you want. Alejandro Perez is probably a decent underdog. Jacob thinks that this is just an absolute mauling. I think it's a little closer than that. I'm not going to have either one of these guys in my lineup, most likely. That moves us to Jin Yu Frey versus Hannah Goldy. This is a controversial one for me. A lot of you guys are not loving the side that I'm on here. So Jin Yu Frey, big, strong, powerful. Her striking is just okay. But she's very composed in her fights, and she really uses that size advantage to bully people. She pushes you against the cage. She tries to work you to the ground, but she relies on her strength and her physicality to get those wins. These 2 takedowns against Lori DePaula, those are impressive. I mean, this is a very good win. This is a very good win. The loss to Lukbumi, she should have been able to drag Lukbumi to the ground whenever she wanted to. Lukbumi is tiny, tiny. So Jin Yu Frey should have been able to do that. The loss to Kay Hansen, she was submitted. That happens. And then Ashley Yoder, she actually outstruck Ashley Yoder. She did not hang out on the ground to get that done. I think she was worried about the jiu-jitsu. But Jin Yu Frey, good fighter. And this Gloria DePaula win looks better and better every month. But if we take a look at Hannah Goldy, and a lot of you people hate Hannah Goldy. If we take a look at Hannah Goldy, she had this loss against Belbita, but she threw up 92 strikes. She scored 60 points in a loss from sheer volume. She had 2 of her own takedowns and solid control time. The finally got her first win against Emily Whitmire, and she submitted her. People will say, oh, she didn't look great, blah, blah, blah. But she submitted her. I like Hannah Goldy in this fight. You guys hate that pick. I like Hannah Goldy in this fight because Jin Yu Frey relies on her physicality to get the takedown. She's not shooting clean wrestling takedowns in the middle of the cage. She's pushing you, dragging you, being stronger than you. Hannah Goldy is ridiculously strong. Ridiculously strong. She's absolutely jacked. And even though she doesn't use her strength for offense because she's just a busy, fun striker, she doesn't use her strength offensively. That doesn't mean she won't use it defensively. I see Jin Yu Frey trying to push Hannah against the cage. Hannah literally muscling her way off the cage, circling out, and just staying busier with the hands. I think Hannah Goldy, with forward pressure, a ton of volume, and her ability to not be bullied, wins her this fight. $7,500. She's honestly probably worth it. Because again, even in this loss, a decision loss, she scored 60 points. So I don't think she gets stopped. And I think she puts up some decent points. You guys hate that pick. You're going to make nasty comments in the comment section because that's what you do. But what I do is try to give you some picks. Terrence McKinney versus Faraz Siham. Terrence McKinney, that's the pick. Done. $7,800. It blows my mind that he's the underdog here. Terrence McKinney is a JUCO All-American wrestler who has proven to have legit power in his hands. He knocked out Matt Fravol in like 6 seconds. You know, the points are the points for that. He got the quick win bonus, and, you know, that was impressive. His last few fights before that were also knockouts. And again, he's a JUCO All-American wrestler. He is fighting Faraz Siham, who is a good fighter, but the dude is a decision king. He just hangs around on the outside, picking apart. He has no problem taking his time, and if he gets booed, he doesn't care. He'll wait for the perfect opportunity, take a strike, and then leave, and then wait for another one. Very low volume guy. These are decisions. These are decisions. 47 strikes. 39. I mean, they're significant strikes, but these are decisions. That's how low volume this guy is. I think that Terrence McKinney comes out there, strikes with him, probably doesn't have a ton of success striking, and just goes to the wrestling and gets it done. This win against Jamie Mullarkey took him down 5 times. 5 times. And Jamie Mullarkey is nowhere near the wrestler that Terrence McKinney is. I think Terrence McKinney absolutely dominates this fight. I'm shocked he's the underdog, and I'm happy for it. I will take Terrence McKinney at underdog money. I did bet on him, and he will be in my lineup. That moves us to Josiane Nunes, and she's taking UFC newcomer and short notice Romana Pascual. This is striker versus striker. Josiane Nunes is just a killer. She's just coming out there, bombing away and knocking people out. I mean, she's got more power in this division than anybody else. This fight is actually at 145 pounds instead of 135 because Ramona is taking on short notice. But I don't necessarily know if that matters. We'll talk about Josiane Nunes. Like I said, legit power, just absolutely taking women's heads off. She's not a very good grappler, but her striking is solid and it's busy. She just comes forward, real good leg kicks, goes to the head, puts people out. Ramona Pascual, there's no data on her. There's no point in clicking on her name. Ramona Pascual is a kickboxer. She's a Muay Thai kickboxer. She literally moved to Thailand to further her kickboxing, and she's big. She's big. We've seen her fight at 35 all the way up to 50. And if you watch her kickboxing, her Muay Thai kickboxing matches, she is good. She comes forward, heavy kicks, heavy knees, and makes things happen. She's not the fastest, but she's powerful and she's technical and she's incredibly smart and she fights smart. If you look at her 2 losses, they're grappling-based losses, but she's made adjustments and she seems to have overcome those losses, like meaning she's improved on her takedown defense and her submission defense. This is short notice, so I've got to go with Josiane Nunes here. But the reality is Ramona Pascual is good and can be trouble, and if Ramona Pascual wins, I would not be surprised. I'd be like, damn it, I should have had the nuts to actually pick her and not worry about the short notice. But she's good. She's good. I don't want you guys thinking that this is a guaranteed knockout for Nunes because Nunes knocks everybody out and this is just some newcomer. Ramona Pascual is good. With that being said, I do think Joanna Nunes wins. This is short notice. She's been in a full training camp, ready to go, and she bombs away. I have no idea what Ramona Pascual's camp has been. Was she in training for something else? She struggled with knee injuries in the past. So I've got to go with Nunes here, $8,900. If you think she gets the stoppage, how could you not spend that? She's knocking everybody out, 121 points in her last fight, and that was against another good striker in what the hell is her? Becca Malecki? I forget what her first name was. Against Malecki, who's really tall and a good striker, and Josiane Nunes did not care and had no problem. So I don't think Nunes in your lineup is bad. I think she can score well for you, and there's obviously potential for a knockout with her, but just be cautioned because I don't think that Ramona Pascual, I think she's actually good, and I don't think she's just some bum, a lamb to slaughter here. That brings us to Ignacio Bahamondes fighting Rong Zhu. Ignacio Bahamondes is ridiculously tall. He's 6'3" for this, he's ridiculously tall for this weight class. He is 6'3". Got that out of the way. And he uses that length pretty well. He's a striker, and he's got a lot of volume. Look at this, 105 significant strikes in a KO, 112 in this decision loss. So he's got solid volume. He picks people apart. He touches people up. He has a 100% takedown defense, And in this matchup, that probably will be tested, but he's got 100% takedown defense. He's defended 17 takedowns in 3 fights, but 12 of those were against one single opponent right here against Roberts. So the numbers are a little skewed when you say, wow, his takedown defense is spectacular. So far it's held up, but it hasn't truly been tested. But we've seen his offense suffer. He fought John Makdessi in not short notice. He fought John Makdessi, who's older, coming back after all sorts of injuries and surgeries and all this stuff. Everybody thought Bahamondes was going to blow through Makdessi, and Makdessi beat him pretty soundly to the point where Bahamondes was looking for his own takedowns because he was losing the strike exchanges, and he was 0 for 4 in his own takedowns. And he is fighting Rong Zhu. Rong Zhu, he's a good striker. He's an okay striker. He picks his shots well. He does have power in his hands, but he's a grappler. And when he's coming forward and he's pushing the pace and he's implementing that game plan, I mean, look at this. 6 takedowns against Jenkins, 3 in a loss against Vargas. But when he's coming forward and he's getting those takedowns and he's mixing in the strikes the way he wants to, he's a good fighter and he does well. My biggest concern here for him is he averages about 5 takedowns per fight, and he still has a negative striking differential. So he is hit far more often than he hits his opponents. And the reality is he's on top. Look at this. 9 minutes of control time. A fight is only 15 minutes, and he still managed to get outstruck. So that's my concern, is he's going to get hit a lot. Ignacio Bahamondes has that volume that we saw. He uses his length really well. He's going to hit Rong Zhu a lot. So I think Bahamondes wins. I think he's absolutely safe for your lineup. But if Rong Zhu somehow manages to not get hit, get to the legs, implement that wrestle-heavy game plan, then of course, this fight could look exactly like his last fight. That takes us to Armen Petrosyan. He is taking this fight against Gregory Rodrigues. Petrosyan, he's coming off of a solid win, but it wasn't, official UFC fight, so there's no data on him, which is why we're on Gregory Rodrigues. But Armen Petrosyan's a fun striker. He's never seen the judges' scorecard. He has a professional kickboxing background, and if you go watch those fight, he essentially brawls it out, and he relies on his chin to do so. He gets hit, and then he hits. He'll back up and then plant his feet and let his hands go. Gregory Rodrigues is a really well-rounded guy. He's got power in his hands, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He works in takedowns. You see here 2 and 3 in these fights. And he's a threat everywhere. He's a threat on his feet. He's a threat on the ground, and he's legitimately good. We have seen his chin tested in the past. We've seen, I don't want to say I'm concerned about his chin, but we've seen issues with his chin, and he's a bit physically slow. Like, he's not the fastest guy in the division. And if you go watch Armen Petrosyan versus Dmitry Minikov, you'll watch him get taken down a few times, Armen. A few times. But he manages to work his way back up. He's not an easy guy to just ride out. And then one exchange, after 2 rounds, basically, of being controlled and taken down, he gets off, and he just absolutely put Minikov out. And this fight could look like that. Gregory Rodrigues could try to strike it out and maybe find himself in some trouble. Armen Petrosyan could defend some takedowns, catch Gregory in the right spot, and get it done. So I'm not going to spend the money on Gregory Rodrigues. He probably wins because the reality is he's the more well-rounded fighter, and there's a very clear path to victory for him. Just grapple. But I love seeing these kickboxing prospects come over. I will be watching closely. I would love if Armen Petrosyan knocked out Gregory Rodrigues. I just love when those kickboxers come over here and make things happen. I'm not going to spend the $8,500 on Gregory Rodrigues, but honestly, you might want to, because there's a very clear path to victory. Like, just get some takedowns, try to ride him out, use that jiu-jitsu black belt, and all of a sudden, $8,500 is not a lot of money if you get that stoppage. That takes us to the other Armen. We have Armen Tsarukyan, and he is fighting Joel Alvarez. This is another fight that you guys are, for whatever reason, attacking me for my pick here. Armen Tsarukyan is a big favorite. He was a 3-1 favorite. The line did move. He's now a 2-1 favorite. The reality is he gets takedowns whenever the hell he wants. Literally whenever the hell he wants. 10 against Matt Frevola. 2 against Albin Messier. And he's just getting the takedowns whenever he wants. He's outstriking all of his opponents. His only loss is to Islam Makhachev, who took him down. But look at this. He got his own takedown. He took Islam down. And I think he's the only person to take Islam down. So my point is, if we go move over to Joel Alvarez, who's long, rangy, good striker, very good jiu-jitsu, this win over Thiago Moises was beautiful. But if you look here, you'll see 0 takedowns, ever. You'll also see he's never defended a single takedown. Every single person that has shot a takedown against Joel Alvarez has gotten that takedown. Every single person. And yes, 3 of those people, there was 3, all 3 of them lost by stoppage, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. But it doesn't matter because the reality is he lost to Ismagulov, okay? Ismagulov took him down, wrote him out. I don't see why Arman Tsarukyan wouldn't do the same thing. And then the fact that Arman Tsarukyan won't even have to try for these takedowns. He'll just take him down whenever the hell he wants to. And then all he has to do is avoid the submissions. I say all. I know it's a lot harder than just don't get submitted. But elbows in, stay busy on top, those good wrestling hips, he should be able to avoid getting submitted on top. Striking-wise, Arman's not the greatest striker, but he can hang, and he doesn't need to take some shots. I think Arman Tsarukyan wins this fight 99 out of 100 times. You guys hate that I say that. The money, Vegas, everybody is saying Joel Alvarez is an underdog, but for some reason, everybody in our comment section and live chat says that thinks Joel Alvarez is the greatest fighter of all time and he's going to dominate this fight. Well, put your money where your mouth is and move the line because he's a 2-to-1 underdog right now. You can get real money. You think he's that live, which he's definitely live, but you think he's a guarantee and the odds should be flipped, then bet on it, man. You're not 2-to-1, 2-to-1, and you think that guy should be the favorite. All your money should be on that, and I should see that line flipped by the end of the week. So very clear who I'm going with. I like Arman Tsarukyan. He will be in my lineup. If Joel Alvarez submits him, I would not be surprised. I just went on this rant that he's going to lose, but I would not be surprised if Joel Alvarez submits him. But I think Arman just 99 out of 100 times. That would be the one time. I even bet some of you that were arguing with me in the live stream. So I look forward to taking money from you guys. That moves us to Priscilla Cachoeira versus Ji-Yeon Kim. Ji-Yeon Kim, she's a striker. And instead of fighting inside the pocket like Priscilla Cachoeira likes to, she uses her range really well. She's tall, she's long, and she does a really good job with that. And she likes to stay on the outside and pick people apart. The success that her opponents have had is they take some shots and they work inside the pocket and they go from there. This loss against Molly McCann, that was a performance of the night loss for her in that fight. It was a great, fun fight for everybody. 122 significant strikes. It really was a lot of fun to watch that fight. And, you know, she's had an interesting UFC career because she is a straight-up striker. She uses her range, but when she can't get that range and she can't get going, she loses these decisions. If she can get it going, she's got solid volume. She doesn't necessarily score a million points because there's no takedowns. There's not much control time. It's just strike, stay outside, strike, stay outside. If we move to Priscilla Cachoeira, she is kill or be killed. She either knocks you out or loses. That's it. There's nothing in between. She has a ridiculous amount of heart, so stopping her is incredibly hard to do. Obviously, submitting somebody and knocking somebody out are two very different things. I don't think Ji-Yeon Kim is going to get any takedowns, so submitting Priscilla Cachoeira is out of the question. Can she stop her on her feet? Probably not. She's going to dance around the outside. I do think Kim wins a decision here, but Priscilla Cachoeira will be live for a knockout the entire time. She knocked out Dobson. She knocked out Gina Mazzani. And, yeah, obviously she scored really well in those, and she's got power and she's got heart. In this Jillian Robertson fight, she started eye gouging and doing some sneaky crap and ultimately was submitted, so karma worked its way out. But I do think Priscilla is live, and if your budget works out, you know, you only got $7,600 left, she's probably the livest literally because she can just knock people out. She doesn't necessarily score well in a loss, and she's not going to win a decision. But Ji-Yeon Kim doesn't necessarily score that well in a win either. So I'm not going to have either one in my lineup, and if you do have one, you're probably better off with Cachoeira and just chasing that knockout. That moves us to the co-main event. We've got Misha Cirkunov versus Wellington Turman, two grapplers. They are both grapplers. Misha Cirkunov has more power in his hands, but he's an uncomfortable striker, and he has, you know, he shoots often, and his takedowns are really well timed. Wellington Turman, very good grappler, has the better stand-up between the two of them, but he doesn't really have power. He'll dance around and has really good footwork, but his striking is better. His chin is a little suspect. But he does have good takedowns, and obviously he's going to have really good submission offense and defense. I don't see either one of these guys submitting each other. So I think that's out of the question. So then it comes down to striking and the wrestling exchanges. So if we look at Misha Cirkunov, this loss to Jotko, if you look at the stats, he had 5 takedowns, and they both had 41 significant strikes. So you would say, how did the man with 5 takedowns lose the fight? Well, that's because he was 5 for 17. So he missed 12 takedowns, and he looked very uncomfortable in the striking. So Jotko took that fight because of, what he was able to do, defending takedowns, standing up, and making that happen. The loss to Ryan Spann, that happens, right? That dude's got power and he can make stuff happen. He did beat Jimmy Crute by submission, which is impressive because Jimmy Crute is also a very good grappler, but I don't see that happening to Wellington Turman. So let's move to Wellington Turman. And Wellington Turman is, I don't want to say he's a busted prospect because I don't think he's busted yet, but he is 2-3 in his UFC career. He's young. He's only 25, and he was supposed to come onto the scene and really be this next big thing. Good clean striking, solid grappling, but he has better, more effective takedowns than Misha Cirkunov does. So I actually like Wellington Turman to win. I like him at $7,900, though, in the underdog role, because I do think if he doesn't strike and end up in this situation like he did with Silver Sanchez, and he goes to his grappling, he can score really well, he can get some takedowns and control. Misha Cirkunov's not going to submit Wellington Turman off his back. I think the only way Misha Cirkunov wins this fight is if he catches him with a big overhand while they're standing, which is certainly possible. Misha does have some power, but I think Wellington is going to come out here, takedown heavy, grapple heavy, and get it done. Plus, his cardio is rock solid, and we haven't really seen Misha's cardio hold up that well. And that takes us to the main event. We've got Islam Makhachev at $9,500. Frankly, I'm surprised he's not 96. I don't know if I've ever seen a 97. Islam is like the future of this division, right? He's on a 9-fight win streak. He's dominated every single person he's ever fought, except when he was knocked out in a flash knockout by Martins. He can take anybody down. He can hang in the striking exchanges. He scores really well in his wins because he is just absolutely dominating people. Even in decisions, he's dominating people. Look at the control time, the takedown volumes. He had a knockdown striking against Ramos. He does well. He scores well. He will 100% be in my lineup. I will say, though, this is his toughest test. It's easy to say Islam is the best in the world, even though he's not the champ. But if you look at who he beat, he hasn't. Dan Hooker's the biggest name that he beat. Nobody outside of Dan Hooker has ever been ranked in the top 10, let alone the top 5. And Bobby Green is insanely tough. If he is anything, he's tough. And he also, it's not like he has a win list over the who's who in the division, but he's priced at $6,700, and nobody says he's going to be the champ. But he's got nasty, nasty boxing. It is clean. He keeps his hands low, and his defense is rock solid. He doesn't necessarily have power, but he was able to put out Al Iaquinta with a perfect 1-2. And Bobby Green has some of the best confidence I've ever seen. And lately, he's really hitting his own. He's really hitting his stride. He came off this, he knocked out, well, first of all, let's go back up. He lost the first 2 rounds against Fiziev, who's probably the best striker in the division, dominated the 3rd round. Then he came out here, knocked out Al Iaquinta, and then he just dominated Haqparast. This Thiago Moises loss, a lot of people think he won that fight, so all of a sudden this dude's winning 4 in a row. Well, actually, I mean, he didn't beat Fiziev at all. But all of a sudden, he's got 4 really solid performances. He's impossible to put away. This will be Islam Makhachev's toughest fight to date, but I still think Islam takes him down, submits him. I just think it's that simple. But Bobby Green, good for him. I'll be rooting for him. I think it's better for the division to Islam that wins because I love that narrative. I want to see him get a title shot and do those things. But Bobby Green is so fun. I hope he puts on a great show. And I hope this goes a little bit and Islam gets tested. I want to see him get hit. I want to see him deal with adversity because eventually he's going to have it. So I want to see it now against Bobby Green so I know how he will perform against the top 5 in the division, which we just haven't seen yet. Islam's the pick. Islam will be in my lineup. Guys, go to DraftKings. Join our DraftKings at WeWantPicks.com/DraftKings. Free contests every single week. Join it. And if you win, I will send you $50 as a congratulations. Click the join button under this video to become a member to get that payout. We'll see you the rest of this week with our final picks and plays.